things around you. Oh, what you gonna love inside of you? Oh, when you gonna hear his revelation? Let it move inside of you.
Welcome, beautiful souls, to Infinite Perspectives, where voices become vision. Of course, I'm Michelle Diamond, CEO of Next Level Promotion, public relations strategist, and co-founder of Infinite Perspectives Brands. And I'm joined by my co-host and co-founder, the ever-grounded and radiant Linda Boston. Linda?
Thank you, Michelle. I'm Linda Boston, performing, literary, and teaching artist, and I will always remind you that you are the change you seek.
Yes. And Infinite Perspectives is proudly brought to you by Peer Incorporated, Next Level Promotion, Carlotta Culver Brands, Moniker Enterprises, and Unlimited Networks Property Management. Now, tonight's conversation is not just information, it's invitation, it's reflection, and it's expansion. Before we begin, I want to ground us in tonight's theme. This is not a lecture. This is a threshold. This is for anyone who has ever asked, where do I belong?
Mm-hmm.
And for those who are no longer asking, but building. This is not a conversation about trends. This is about legacy, about who gets passed hand to hand, heart to heart, generation to generation.
Thank you, Michelle. And tonight feels like a return, a remembering of who we are when culture, education, and identity are allowed to coexist, not compete. When people feel seen, they don't just learn differently, they live differently. So tonight, we are honored to be joined by a woman whose work reminds us that affirmation is not cosmetic, it is developmental. That representation is not optional, it is necessary.
Yes.
And that belonging, when done right, becomes revolutionary. Please join us in welcoming my sister friend, my great confidant, Dr. Darla Davenport-Powell.
Yes, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am so honored to be here in this sacred space with the two of you tonight. I need to tell you, Michelle, that all that wonderful work that you and Linda did in terms of making sure that the information got out, I just want to commend you in terms of the care and the intentionality that you put in everything. That song that you sent, that last song kind of messed me up, sister. I mean, I was like, okay, here we go. And so I had to sit in all of that. And just want you to know that I am grateful to be here in this space at this time. And what I'd like to do, I generally start all of my shares with a libation. And so I'd like to start out with the libation just to ground us.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We pour for the waters that carried our ancestors, the waters off Columbia that hold Gullah Geechee memory, waters off Georgia's coast where Igbo feet chose the deep rather than chains. We pour for those who came before us, who witnessed what could not be swallowed, who kept truth in their mouths. We pour for the Black women leaders carrying impossible loads, for the Black girls creating joy in spaces not built for their thriving. We pour and we remember we're not the first to do this work. We will not be the last, and that we are held. Ashe, ashe, ashe.
Ashe.
And that spirit of remembering is what we're grounding our share in tonight. Remembering.
Yes. So it is, and so it shall continue. Ashe and ashe.
Ashe, ashe. Thank you so very much.
Yes. And before we move right in, I'm feeling the energy and I love it. We have some comments straight from the gate. Joy says, I see you, Dr. Davenport-Powell. Gratitude, Joy, for being here and being such a great support system. And hi. Gratitude. Auntie Professor Franklin joined in and said, Dr. Darla Davenport-Powell is an amazing visionary. She's a powerhouse. Love you, my sister queen. Gratitude from another queen herself.
Mhm.
And we have another coming in from Sylvia Jenkins. Burton Heights Standish Acres Neighborhood Association supports our very own Dr. Darla Davenport-Powell. We are proud of you. Gratitude all for coming in and sharing this experience with us. And to continue on, and we're so grateful for that. Dr. Darla, Sister Darla, all of the above. Thank you.
It's Darla, and the village is showing up and showing out. And that's what it's about. You know, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but this is a collective work.
Yes.
This is a collective work and responsibility. And I am so grateful again to be surrounded, you know, with reminders in terms of who we are and whose we are. And I was thinking, even in terms of the libation, my daughter, our daughter Naya, who is now 42 and will be 43, she did a conference about a month ago, and she said something that stuck with me. She said that memory is in our bones. Memory is in our bones. And I sat with that because I started thinking about genetic consciousness and how we have every strand of the DNA. You know, it's not just academic theory, but it's lived through our people, and it's in our bones, and what the bones create in terms of the marrow and the white blood cells and the red blood cells and the platelets, you know, the life flow. And so as I remember, as I recall, as we talk about I am enough, as we talk about cultural affirmation, as we talk about belonging, what we're calling forth is memory.
Yes, we are. And remembrance is a beautiful thing. We just spoke about that with our other sister, Professor Franklin, on last week, talking about remembrance. And this is, you know, everything that we do, it's so in sync and it's all about alignment. And I love that. But moving right in, because we're going to tie everything you just said with how we're moving in purpose together. So Dr. Darla, we're talking about I am enough, as you mentioned. And just to delve in a little bit on that, cultural affirmation as a revolutionary practice. One of the pillars of your work is I am enough, not as a slogan, but as a counter narrative. You center Ujima, collective responsibility, as a framework of social emotional learning. Can you share with us how this approach challenges deficit-based narratives about Black girlhood and why representation in play isn't just nice to have, but essential in development?
Thank you for that. I had the wonderful opportunity of working with 9 beautiful Black girls at an independent school here in Columbia, South Carolina for 9 weeks. And we used the book, we are friends and also Naya and the Clubhouse crew as a tool to help these girls to be able to speak about their thoughts and their feelings and their emotions. And we named the group I Am Enough. And the I Am Enough comes from that basic question of who am I? Who am I? When we sit with that and we ask the question, who am I? When I think about it, I'm thinking about it from what my parents taught me, William Earl and Dorothy Mae Hampton Davenport. And they taught me and my sisters that you are a child of God.
Mhm.
You are a daughter of the Most High.
Yes.
You have the same qualities and aspects of the one who said, I am that I am, which talks about God's nature and God's name. So whatever we attach to the I am has power because we're looking at divinity. And so when we talk about the thing of who am I spiritually? Not with all the hyphenates, yes, educator, drum, but who am I at the core of my being? And I am a divine being. I'm a spiritual being with a temporary loan of a body.
Mhm.
Carries the same name and nature of God. I am spirit clothed in flesh, connected to the eternal and unchanging. And so
Yes.
when we look at the I am at the core from a spiritual perspective, we're talking about our divine identity.
Mm.
That's what the girls and I, that's what we got in that room and allowed them to have a space where they could be their bold selves and not be labeled too loud,
Mm.
Too
you know, or too anything, you know, too brash. No. They were allowed to be open and honest with whatever came up, came out. And I learned so much from them. As I looked at them, I saw the little girl in me and I just hugged her. I just hugged her tightly, you know, being able to be given an opportunity to be able to sit with these girls for 9 weeks. And so we talked about I am from a spiritual perspective. Then we talked about I am from a historical perspective,
Mm.
connected to those who came before us, our ancestors who survived the Middle Passage,
Yes.
Right.
our ancestors who built empires like Mali and Timbuktu and
Come
Sangha,
on.
our ancestors who were astronomers and mathematicians and politicians and all the things, artisans. We talked about I am from a historical perspective. And then we talked about I am from a cultural perspective,
Mm.
shaped by our traditions, our languages, our ways of knowing, epistemologies. And that's what's so missing. How do Black girls learn?
Mm.
How do we learn? How do we accumulate knowledge?
Mhm.
And so as I thought about the Gullah Geechee memory, I thought about that sweet grass. I don't know if y'all familiar with sweet
Oh
grass.
yeah, we know.
I am. Yes, I am.
Well, you do it, but you better not swallow it, right?
Come on.
All right?
Mhm.
Because some things are indigestible.
Yes.
And so that's what we talked about as well. We talked about the call and response. We talked about the quilting patterns that were actually maps of freedom. We talked about all of that in this 9-week session, the I am that I am.
Wow.
And then we talked about it from a physical perspective, the body, breathing, heart beating. I wrote a poem called I Am Enough that talks about being sustained by the same power that holds the sun in the sky and keeps the wave in the ocean. So when we talk about those 4 dimensions of I am, we talk about spiritual, historical, cultural, physical, and they're not separate. They're woven together.
Mm.
Question,
That word
who
again.
am I? So when we talk about the I am and we think about it in terms of the research that I did with these girls and also raising our children, we think about identity, not just what we think we are, but it's literally who we know we are at our core, in our bones.
Mhm.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
And, you know, I concur. And we have another question posed from Martina. It says, how do Black girls learn? The mere thought sent chills. And,
Yes.
I'm going to elaborate on that, Martina. Basically, what I heard Darla say is that play is not neutral. It teaches children who they are before language does. And when the child repeatedly encounters absence, that absence becomes instruction.
Absolutely.
Ooh,
That's good.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
it. That's it with that right there.
Yes.
That's
That's
it
what I
with
was going to
there.
say. Let's sit there in that moment for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
From what you've seen, when affirmation is present early, what changes first?
Mm.
Confidence,
I like
Mhm.
that.
language. How do we physically move through spaces? When you were pouring libations, it brought tears to my eyes because we sometimes forget to remember
Mm.
Mm. Mhm.
the
Mhm.
importance of remembering culture and remembering
Yes.
who we are. We're in a precarious situation right now in this
Mm.
world. And to forget to remember could be detrimental.
Mm.
Yes.
So, when affirmation is present early, what changes first? Darla, is it confidence? Is it language? How we physically move through spaces? What changes first? What is it?
Mm.
Think about it though. Think about being of the same force of the source.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. The creator who fixed the sun in the sky
Mm.
created me. I'm connected. I have divinity within me. The creator who made the moon and the earth and the waves and the water. And I get to communicate. I get to talk to. I get to sit with. I get to connect with the one who created all of it,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
created, and I'm a part of that.
Come on.
When you talk about I am, you're talking about divine nature.
Mm.
And so when you talk about I am enough, it's not something I strive, it's something I know because of who I am attached to, connected with. I tell people all the time when they talk about imposter syndrome,
Ooh.
it's like
Come on now.
there's no one on this earth that I'm intimidated. I get to talk to God every day.
Come on
Mm.
with
I talk to the one who created all of it. So who's man? Who's me? Imposter syndrome, talking about belonging,
Mm.
belonging. It's not something you seek permission for. It's something you remember and you know in your Shechem
Ooh.
based on whose we are. And
Yes.
so when we had that conversation, and these girls came, they came with it. They came with
no.
that funds of knowledge. They came talking about knowing that they are daughters of the Most High. And so what
Mm.
comes first? Stillness. And when we get still, all types of the information just reveals itself. And like
Yes.
you said, Michelle, it's about alignment. It's not about striving. It's not about chasing. It's about being aligned with.
That's right.
When
Yes.
everything in this body lines up and is operating, on one accord, that's power.
Yes.
That's
You took the
power.
words right out of my mouth.
Yes.
It is very powerful. And what I heard through all of this, the question Linda posed, your answer, you diving in so that people could understand how deep it is, the I am, and that it's not a longing, is
No.
this is who you are.
Yes.
That's power.
Yes.
And we have to remember that representation isn't optional, it's foundational.
Yes.
Come on.
And it
Yes.
starts within. And,
Yeah.
and that's what we talked about on last week also. You know, a lot of people are doing it so backwards, is that they're trying to change and restructure from the outside in, but everything starts within.
Yes.
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 So
Yes.
Yes.
And then
No.
and then when you think about that, when
Mhm.
you think about the whole thing of how these places called schools, learning centers, how when we look at them, I weep.
Mm,
I weep. I weep because there's a lot of spirit murdering going on in the name of
Mhm.
indoctrination, not education, because education, educo, to lead that which is within, to lead it without, you know. And then I look at that whole thing of you get a bad grade, I'm not smart. You don't win first place, I'm not talented. You feel criticized, I'm not good enough. You look in the mirror every day and see all these images, I'm not attractive,
Mhm.
you know. And so when our children start getting messages written on them, and they begin to internalize that, and then they begin to act out, and then they're penalized for acting out
Mhm.
without
Mhm.
really there being questioned as to what's operating, what's going on inside, and being
Mhm.
given a place where you can express it without being penalized for what you say,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and not seeing themselves in the materials, in the curriculum, you know, not having their lived experiences to be out front and center as the narrative, as the shero. And that's why here comes Naya, and that's why Naya and the Clubhouse crew and We Are Friends has a female protagonist, because I
Mhm.
wanted her to see herself
mm,
as the shero,
You
as
know
I
what?
want our children to see themselves as the lead in their story.
And you
yes.
know what's really powerful there? Because we're talking about the whole world is a stage. You remember that song years ago? The whole world is a stage. So it's not, we're talking about creating something for children to use, but it's not just about that. It's creating something for them to feel safe inside. And it
Yeah.
pertains to us grown folks too, see?
Yeah.
Mhm.
We have to translate back into our lives so that we can support that in our children.
Correct.
You know, you have to realize that all of what's coming in, because it's coming in so fast,
Yes.
got
Yes.
to sift through it. You know,
Mhm.
did you realize early on that this work was going to be a healing work, not just an educational work?
No.
Mm.
No. No. I mainly sought out to write a story about this little girl who gave me so much material every day,
Uh-huh.
and I wanted, you know, her to be able to know again that she could be the lead in her own story. But
Mm.
in terms of what it has developed and evolved, because it's an evolution in 4 decades of work, I see it clearly as being a conduit in terms of healing the little girl within us, as you talked
Mm.
about, Linda, you know, that whole thing of not feeling, because we know on a subconscious, a conscious, a preconscious level, you know, and it's that subconscious and unconscious level that really, you know, we have to really allow for things to come up. Because when we look at it, even in terms of our self-esteem consciousness, you know, that's some work that we have to do, you know, to
Yeah.
know that inherently, you know, we have worth and value. We don't have to work for it. We come here just by nature of our being here. We are of value, you know, and many of us, we don't realize, we don't know that. We think that the more that we do, more valuable we are. And that's why we work ourselves to, you know, to the bone, because the more
Mhm.
we work,
Mm.
you know, we're validating. The more we work, we're of value. That's what this system tells us. But no, absolutely not. I came here with it. You came here with it. We came here with it. Our value is intrinsic. It's innate. It's inside. Nothing that we have to work for or work on.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mm. So I love that you talked about bringing into the work. And that's the focus I want to shift to, bringing all of ourselves to the work. You embody many identities: author, entrepreneur, researcher, actress, singer, poet, drummer, and most importantly, mother and grandmother.
Yeah.
So, for someone that wears so many hats, some people are taught to compartmentalize. You have chosen to integrate.
Yeah.
What has this meant for you to bring all of yourself into your work? And how does that wholeness create more authentic change?
That's a good question. I'm going to sit with that one for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Being a mother,
Mm.
there's so much information
Ooh.
that we have and we get when we are blessed to be mothers. And I'm not just talking about biological, because there's some women who have not birthed babies, but they're mothers.
Mm.
And there's so much information in that. And so why would I take that information and not see how it transfers to my acting?
Mm.
I did a role. I think it was 2 years ago,
Yeah.
the Bell Affair,
Mm-hmm.
and I played the matriarch. And Linda, you can speak to this in terms of what we do, in terms of creating that whole backstory and pulling from, people who we know, and so that we can do not just justice, but so that we can do honorable work.
Yes.
I pulled a lot from my mama.
Yeah.
I pulled a lot from my grandmama. I pulled a lot from Miss Miller, who would sit on the porch every day, and before there was neighborhood watch, she would know what was going,
She
and
was
so
the neighborhood watch. Yeah.
right. And so I said all that to say that information is in all of those. And so whenever I am playing drums, okay, whenever I am teaching, even now when I'm speaking, you hear a cadence, you hear a rhythm.
Yes.
So it's not about compartmentalizing yourself, but it's about integrating. Look at how our bodies are. Look at how the digestive, all of it is like it connects. It connects, and one thing informs the other.
Yes.
And that's a beautiful thing about being a woman too, because we're like spaghetti, it's all, we're like waffles, right? And they no, it moves, it informs, it.
We're the weavers.
Yes. Yeah. The mind is a mystery, the body is a miracle. And I love that you said that. There's something powerful about modeling permission, especially who were taught to shrink, right? Taught to diminish. And I'm curious about the emotional side of that integration. See, was there ever a moment when you felt pushed to separate parts of yourself, and what helped you to stay whole and to keep all that spaghetti in the bowl?
Yeah, I live in the same world you live in.
Yeah, I know.
So the answer is absolutely yes. But I have a daddy, and he's made his transition, and I'm still using it. And I have a daddy who didn't put ceilings on my dreams. Yeah. He encouraged me in terms of whatever I wanted to do. I wanted to play drums. He went out and got my first drum set when I was 12. He didn't say, "Oh no, boys play drums," but the world tells you different things, right? I wanted to drive a school bus. I drove a school bus at 17, I drove children to school when
Come
I
on.
was in high school. And I think about that. My dad taught me how to drive when I was 9. He also taught me a number of things in terms of how to change a tire and all the things. And so as the world would try to put its limitations on me, I had parents who did not, and so that I kept that remember memory. And so that's the thing that kept propelling me, even in the midst of, oh, women don't preach, women. No. And having a mind to be able to read and to be able to research and to see where things came from. Just tell me what I can't do, and you'll start that whole wheel of me looking at, okay, I'm going to do this, And so I said all that to say that, again, the environment, my parents allowed me and my sisters to dream the whole thing of the wonderful world of imagination, which I created. Like, not about if you can see it, you believe it, but no, if you believe it, then you see it. So they had a space where that was encouraged.
Yes.
They encouraged me, to be able to do whatever I endeavored to do.
That.
And they were there to support all the way. To the very end.
I love that. And just wanted to make note, I did pin the comment there for a while. Martina said, our value is intrinsic and innate. Absolutely. I agree. And, with what you explained of what your parents instilled, what I get from that is when we fragment ourselves to be accepted, the work also fragments.
Absolutely.
And what we've got to realize is that integration isn't about doing more. It's about becoming more whole. And it reminds me of the mere fact that you need to surround yourself around people who encourage you, young and old alike. So if you don't have a daddy, if you don't have a mama, find a Darla.
Yes.
Find a Michelle, find a Linda, find Miss Nellie, find whoever.
Find a Professor Franklin.
Find a Professor Franklin, find a Carlotta Cole, find somebody who can keep it whole, even if you have to rely on your own children. Because my daughter is one of my greatest supporters and encouragers. So when I had that whole spaghetti in the bowl and the soup is cooking, I'm all right.
And that's the thing too, but look at it too, because we have to unlearn some things. How am I going to cut myself off? If I cut one part of me off, I cut all of me off. So I'm going to embrace all aspects of me. That's the whole thing in terms of holistic, the whole part of it.
Yes.
Hit and caboodle,
Correct.
And not just this part. No, all y'all members, let's come on to the table.
Correct. And we touched on that briefly before we even started the show when we talked about accepting the good, the bad, the ugly, because each teaches us different things and we have to give gratitude to each because it's a learning experience. And what's not meant to stay, we release it. We rise above, learn from it, and continue on. That's what the process looks like, especially when it comes to integration. So I love it. So we're talking about this amazing woman with us, 40 years of creating belonging from dolls to digital worlds. Your journey, it spans 4 decades from creating your first doll to developing virtual reality platforms for social emotional learning. What has staying committed to culturally responsive work over 40 years required of you, especially when the world wasn't always ready to receive it?
Confident faith, not built on outcome. And that's another thing. We get discouraged when it doesn't happen the way and no, the process teaches us so much. I would have lost so many key people had I thought when I went to Mattel and when I went to Tyco and when I went to Nickelodeon, and I got the nose
And all
from
of
the
it.
from the publishing companies and all of that. Had I stopped, I would have missed so many people. I would have missed Tom Girardi, who was my attorney and also the attorney for Barney, who represented me for pro bono for years. I would have missed Suzanne Mills Winkler, who was an executive at Mattel, but she started her own company and she did all the prototypes. I would have missed Sylvia Small and Diane Page and Verlene Savage, who took this vision, and we had tea parties at Union Temple Baptist Church, and and they were there at the house putting shoes, socks, and sound devices along with my mother sitting at the table. I would have missed the men of the temple who would come and get all the boxes together so that we can go and ship them. I would have missed Bill Cosby's mother-in-law driving to my house, going to my basement, picking 2 dolls for her grandchildren. I would have missed Sharon Farmer, who was the photographer, the first African-American director of the White House photography. She was my photographer. I would have missed her. I would, and I can go down the list in terms of what I would have missed had it happened the way I thought it would have happened. I would have missed starting my own publishing company, High Hopes Publishing. I would have missed starting my own doll company, HCN Enterprises. I would have missed all of that had I gone to Tyco and it says, well, if you gotten here maybe a year earlier, we would have considered the Naya doll.
Yeah.
There are so many things and people and places and learning and that I would have missed had it happened the way that I thought it should have happened.
That is so important. That is so important. You can't block your own blessing. You simply can't block your own blessing. I hear you completely. And for people walking purpose paths right now, it makes me think, what does consistency look like on the days when nobody is clapping? What that look like?
It looks like being able to pick up something that you've created that was not, that will forever be. I think about Maurice Jenkins. He did the illustrations. This is I call Michelangelo the Maurice of his time, because he does murals and he did the Here Comes Naya illustrations. But I think about him and his genius, and I think about even now what he's been able to create, and still the challenges that we both have in terms of doors not opening. I'm working now to get a partnership with the tech company so that I can do a virtual reality video game with social emotional learning. I'm looking to partner with a production company, with a network, so that I can do the animated television shows in terms of social emotional learning, so that our children can understand that whole self-awareness, social awareness, all the things that come with that. And still, the doors are not swinging open. However, even in the midst of that, as I think about, and I just got a text from a lady, it was a message, a Facebook message from a lady who worked at a literary agency, a major literary agency. And she sent me this text and she says, I'm trying to get in touch with you because the literary agency that I was a part of, they were so backwards. They didn't see what I saw. And she said, and I took home the book and the audio tape, and I raised 5 children on the Here Comes Naya book. And now I have a grandson, and I was wanting to know if you have the book or an audio recording, because again, of what the book did and what we knew it would do. And so when I get confirmation, affirmation like that, and I have a mother who calls and says, yeah, my daughter, she knows Spanish because her Naya doll is teaching her Spanish. Our first radio interview, was with Kathy Hughes.
Yes.
The owner of WOL, the founder of Radio One, TV One, Urban One, our first interview. And I consider Kathy a mentor, as I consider Maya Angelou a mentor as well. And to be able to have her as our first person to interview us because, again, seeing the breadth of what we created, having a platform where she, in essence, did what I had endeavored to do, and that is to be able to employ, that is to be able to promote that which is good, and so things like that I don't take for granted. I don't take for granted flying down to North Carolina and sitting at Dr. Maya Angelou's table in her kitchen, and her reading something that I had written that was going to be on home videos for BET. And here I am sitting. She was a virtual mentor, but here I am sitting with my mentor, and she's taking us to school, and she's reading what I wrote, and then she's dropping all these nuggets. And then she takes us to the second house, the one that Oprah gave her, and then she's serving us lemonade and when you talk about, and there's stories, I've got stories. I've got stories of standing at Jacob Javits in New York, in terms of the toy fair, not being able to afford a table, not being able to afford even a little space to be able to show the doll. So I had the doll and I was going back and forth. And it's like, you have that real baby. They thought it was a real baby in the bag. It's like, no. And then to be able to hold court with some of the major people in the toy industry, you talk about what it builds that thing called a no is not a no, it's a maybe. And it's an opportunity for me to be able to go in a different direction, do it with different people, or do a different thing, and so that's what the no's have taught me, stepping stones. It's like, okay, and of course it hurts, absolutely, and I'm not trying to poo-poo over it, because it's like, I know what this was intended. This came from the divine, and somebody says, oh, if you were a different hue, you have this stuff all over the place. I understand that. At the same time, there are things along this journey that I wouldn't trade for nothing in the world. For my mama to sit at a table where her daughter has created a doll, and she's putting shoes and socks in her own, where she worked at Horseman Doll Factory for 20 years doing boxes with it. I would trade that for nothing in the world. So there's so many successes along the way, in so many different ways. People that I've met, the village that has come forth, because they see the value in what we have created, not me, but what we have created. Oh, yeah.
Yes. That is so beautiful. And I just wanted to, because Dr. Wanda is reading my mind. Dr. Wanda said the deepest lessons are often in the journey rather than the destination.
Absolutely.
And my point with that, Dr. Darla, just to piggyback off of you, it's so important for our audience to hone in and hear what we just stated. The deepest lessons are often in the journey rather than the destination. Longevity is not about visibility. It's about the devotion, right? Because when we are devoted to something, we put the time into what needs to be focused on at the present. And when we are focused on what we're supposed to, energy, alignment, everything comes naturally when it's supposed to. So it's not about where we thought we were supposed to be. It's where we are going to be.
That part right there. That part right there. Drop all the mics. Absolutely.
That's right. Exactly.
And then I'm thinking,
go ahead. No, you go. Okay.
I was thinking about my husband and how, he married this woman who's like, okay, I'm thinking about this. And then he knows once I think about it, it's like, okay, I'm going to get still and quiet and get some direction and let's go. Don't ask me about where the money's coming from. Don't ask me about no. We just go, people come, my brother-in-law who helped us to be able to get a grant and a loan to be able to pay for the dolls, and then the dolls began to pay for themselves. I mean, there's so many different people, but then I look at my children, my wife, I look at them, and now I'm looking at that whole thing of legacy gifts.
Mhm.
the storytelling that all of my children, all producers,
Yeah.
Naya, Nigel, and Naeem, just like I created Here Comes I, they all are producers.
Yes.
They all have that strong production skill,
Mhm.
music, I mean, just beyond, right?
Mhm.
And even in terms of champion the marginalized, we lived in a group home when we first got married. We lived with differently able men. And our daughter Naya is working now at a facility with differently able people. And so when you talk about genetic consciousness, unconsciousness, you talk about being in your bones, you talk about championing the marginalized, all of our children. Nigel has it as well as like entrepreneurship.
Oh,
Each and
yes.
every, the cooking part, the counseling part, all of that, from their dad, all being a psychologist, all of that, all of that. And now we're seeing it in our grandchildren.
Yes.
Rocco and Eric Stone and Nyla Jade and Naomi, we're seeing it in them in terms of the creativity and the spiritual and cultural wisdom.
Yes.
So
that's that legacy energy. That's not performance. That's not visibility. It's commitment. I was doing a little research. What came across my wonderful computer technology was that a brother by the name of David Blackwell was the mathematician that created the chip to create AI. And you don't even know that he's a Black man. His family is now making a documentary about his legacy. We have to tell the story. If you don't tell the story, it will be forgotten.
That is so
and we have to tell the whole story. Because I think about that whole thing of, yes, in our bones, there's memory in terms of trauma, but there's also memory in terms of excellence. Who were we before we were enslaved? All that memory is there.
So
when we bring that, when we remind our young people that, you know what, we came here. The children who came here, they were scholars. They came from parents who were scholars and parents who were in charge of governments. That's the stuff that we're made of. That's who we be, not who we are. That's who we be.
So true. We have jumped all over the map of your life, and I'm glad that you brought us to legacy and lineage, right? The work that outlives us. So when we talk about legacy and lineage, I want to slow us down right here because this part carries weight. Your mother worked for 20 years at the Horseman Doll Factory. You watched her hands create beauty long before you understood what those seeds would become. And later, you created the Naya doll. Your daughter became a children's author and storyteller. And now your granddaughter is receiving that same gift. Can you speak to what it means to witness creativity move through 4 generations of women and how that shapes the way you understand legacy?
Wonderful question.
There's a saying in the Bible, teach the children lest they forget, right? Teach the children. And so let's go back to that whole thing of carrying the name I am. One of the things that my parents also did, they said the Davenport name, it means something. When you go out here, you don't go out here acting like a fool, because our name carries something, and so the whole point of it is that what does it mean to now to be able to see how what I have been the beneficiary of, what my mother was the beneficiary of, now what our children are, and then their children. It speaks about inheritance. And I think I heard you say this, Linda. Inheritance is not just what one is given, but it's what one is, what's put inside, what one is given in terms of inside. So leave an inheritance. I'm living a legacy. And
Mm.
it feels some kind of good to live one, and knowing that when the time comes, I'll be leaving a mighty good one as well. But to live a legacy and to see, as Naya says, when she started doing this, she said, wait a minute, this is not new. My mom did a book, and then and then of course Naomi. It's like, to be able to see that, it doesn't get any better than that. It really doesn't, because that's what it's about. Starting with our own and then spreading abroad. The Naya doll, the Naya book, that was a gift to our daughter. The Nihi, the bumblebee, that was a gift to our son Nigel. The Captain Meon and the Peace Defenders comic, that was a gift to Naeem. But what became a gift to them evolved into a gift to the children of the world. And so much so, when we talk about it again, I didn't share this story. Naya was writing about South Africa. She was 11 years old. My being in media, it's like, why don't you write a letter to the White House? Because I knew that President Nelson Mandela was coming to the White House after he had gotten elected president of South Africa. And so I helped her to write the letter, and we came home one day and heard on our answer machine, hi, Naya, this is Ann from the White House. Just want you to know that you and your family are invited to be a part of the inaugural celebration of President Nelson Mandela. So needless to say, that whole week, the media was just, canvassing and tracking and all of that. And we get to the White House, and we are part of that whole inaugural celebration. Ron Brown, Alexis Herman, the folk were there, right? And then we began to walk, and then the media asked, well, did you meet him, Naya? Were you able to meet? She says, no, I didn't meet him, but just being there. Well, the president of the National Press Club heard it on the news. He called us and invited us to a private luncheon with President Nelson Mandela and his daughter. And there, Naya was able to present him with a doll and a note that said, to the children of South Africa, keep believing. So I made a promise to him that I was going to do whatever I needed to do to make sure that the Naya doll was available to any child all around the globe, South Africa included. And so those are the things that keep me doing just what I'm doing, to keep on keeping on.
That is magnificent. Magnificent. I think that everything you are saying is so encouraging. We really have no excuses. You have given us all of the formula. All of our guests have done that, really. They have given us the formula through these infinite perspectives that are out there. And when we operate in the imagination and the beautiful minds that we have, we can ask questions from the heart and get answers from the heart. When you look at your granddaughter, do you see legacy as something we pass down, or something we awaken in each generation? Because that's two different things.
I love that.
Yeah, that's two different things.
Something that we awaken with Naomi, with Nyla Jade, with Rocco, with Eric. It's an awakening. It's an awakening. It's not a passing, it's an awakening, and that's the thing. Even I look at Hampton, I tell this story because we talk about genetic consciousness. I didn't know anything about Hampton Institute, but I knew it was the school that I wanted to go to. Why? Because I read about Booker T. Washington, and I felt a kinship there with him. And so I applied to Hampton. But before I applied, my guidance counselor, she says, your SAT scores are not, the greatest. So I think you probably need to consider a trade school. Now, we need trade schools. Yes. But I knew that that's not my area of gifting. I knew that I wanted to go to Hampton, and her expectation, her level was lower than my community and my family. Well, long story short, I got accepted at Hampton, went to Hampton. The moment I set foot on the campus, it was home. I felt home. It wasn't like, oh, this is a nice place. No, I felt home. So what was that? Was that an awakening to say that, wait a minute here, 365 years ago, our ancestors set foot at Fort Monroe, and they were enslaved. And here I get a chance to set foot 365 years later and write a new narrative?
Come on.
It's beautiful.
Mm.
I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
And, you know, when we think about writing new narratives, it's important the work that we put in and it being able to touch so many lives and give people something to hold on to, that hope. And just the reminder from the beginning when you talked about faith, that if you just hold on, any and everything is possible. You know, I just wanted to go back to Jacqueline's comment. She said the no's have taken you to powerful places and given you power. All of us need to realize this. And that comment in itself was so true. And, you know, with all of that, this is what where voices become vision looks like when it is lived. Not branding, not performance, but continuity.
Yes. Yeah. That's the shift from inheritance to activation. You know,
It is.
that's a powerful thing.
It is. You know, Dr. Darla, we want to take this time and say thank you for reminding us that the work doesn't end with us, but it does begin with us. And to our listeners, if you've ever wondered whether what you're building matters, as you've heard here tonight, it absolutely does.
Yes.
If you've ever questioned whether representation changes outcomes, yes, it does. And if you're carrying a legacy you don't yet fully understand, trust that it's still unfolding.
And when you know you belong, you can't help but create spaces where others belong too. And thank you and Linda for creating this space. You're talking about legacy. Yeah, that's generosity. So when you know you belong, you can't help but create spaces where others belong to. May I share this last poem?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, we were through with you. Yeah,
we ain't done with you yet.
I wrote this in 2014 and started a whole foundation, the I Am Enough Foundation. And this just came up in my spirit and I just want to share it. And it's simply called I Am Enough, ENUF. And that's intentional in terms of how we spell it. When I affirm the I amness of my soul and accept the truth of who I am, I declare I am enough. When I close my ears to the outside noise that screams, you're not this and you're not that, and open my eyes to see the beauty of my unique self, I declare I am enough. When I think about what it took for me to get here and what it takes for me to stay here, sustained by the same power that holds the sun in the sky and keeps the waves in the ocean, I declare I am enough. When I feel my heartbeat and listen to the cadence of each breath, I declare I am enough. When I consider how sufficient I am in my insufficiencies and how perfect I am in my imperfections, embracing my flaws, flaunting my failures, and voicing my vulnerabilities, I declare I am enough.
I am enough.
It is the pieces of myself that make the masterpiece. I am complete. I am an original. I am fiercely and wondrously made. I am enough.
Yes.
Yes. You know, and we got to remind people that's a powerful poem. We're gonna come up with an
Got me tearing up here.
we gotta come up with an acronym for ENUF.
Mhm.
You know,
Yes.
if you're still figuring out where you belong, I want you to know, my beautiful souls out there, that belonging isn't something you wait for.
No.
It's something you create.
Mhm.
So remember, tonight wasn't about becoming someone new.
No.
Mm.
It was about remembering who you've always been.
Mhm.
Ooh.
Arrive as you are. Leave with what you're ready to release.
Mm.
Okay?
Yes.
This show is Infinite Perspectives, where voices become vision.
Absolutely. And again, Dr. Darla Davenport-Powell, we're going to put it out there.
Yeah, put it all in
Much
there.
gratitude for gracing us with your absolute beautiful presence and sharing I Am Enough with our audience, your story, because it needs to be told and sung from many mountaintops, okay?
Yeah.
And we just wanted to say we are going to bring you back because we have so much more to explore. And
Gotta throw
there are
some
so many
questions
people
down.
that
How we doing?
is
Yeah.
in the audience that I'm like, ooh, great comment. We need to talk, So
Mhm.
we're definitely going to reach out to some of you as well. I know Dr. Wanda. I know there's Jacqueline, Martina, just beautiful. Thank you all. And Professor Franklin was on last week, and this is a continuance of what we were talking about, remembrance and legacy and knowing who we are. Such a powerful episode. Thank you again. I am Michelle Diamond.
And I am Linda Boston.
Until next time,
Stay grounded
stay open.
and remember, your voice is already vision.
This is Infinite Perspectives, where
Where
voices
voices
become
vision.
vision.
Yes.
Ashe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ashe, so it is, and so it shall continue.
Yes.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. And we have some more comments. The hearts are coming in. Martina
Yes.
gave you some hearts, then so did Joy. Thank you so
Patrice.
much. And Martina said beautiful. And again, she said Ashe. Love you guys. Thank you so much again,
Thank you.
Dr. Davenport. And until next time, guys.
Peace.
Oh, wait. Somebody else had a comment. We have to slide it in. Thank you all for sharing your power with us. Gratitude is ours.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
How you gonna change the things around you? Oh, what you gonna love inside of you? Oh, when you gonna hear his revelation?